Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costes.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental 18 podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
Two perspectives, one mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Dental 18 podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent and
Dr. Mark Costes. That was very presumptuous of you to say another exciting episode. What if this actually is not an exciting episode?
It's going to be exciting because right now I am driving in New Jersey and I'm driving past three people standing in the middle of a lake on ice, and it looks like they're going to ice fish. But I'm just a little terrified. Like, what if they fell through? Like, already it's an exciting episode right there. It is.
Yeah, okay, there you go. And I am driving to one of my practices here in northern Arizona. I am subbing for an associate who's feeling under the weather today, which is always exciting. So there you go. That's always exciting because I haven't seen the schedule yet. And who knows, I might be seeding a bunch of his crowns, or I might be doing an implant or a molar root canal on tooth number 14. So I am excited because I don't know what's around the corner. You can do anything. So it's going to be a fun, exciting day. And we get a podcast before we go to work. So wow,
how much better can our days be?
I am excited now, Kiera. I wasn't excited until you showed me the light. It is going to be an exciting day.
He's lying. He told me he could not wait. This is all he was waiting for today.
Speaking of ice fishing, when I lived in Wisconsin, I went to Marquette University for dental school. I got the opportunity to do that. I went with a friend to his cottage in the Upper Peninsula, and we went ice fishing. It was crazy, dude. Like, so people have this crazy sense of security on those lakes. Like, there were people that pulled their boats, or I'm sorry, their trucks in a circle on the lake, and they had a campfire on the ice.
It just feels weird because I remember as a kid we went ice fishing, and like we took the snowmobiles on the ice and we had a tent and we slept out on the ice while we were fishing. I remember thinking like I could fall through because there was a second time in my life when I did think it would be a great idea to make extra money, and I lived on a golf course, and the ice the lake kind of froze over, and all these golfers were out golfing, and I'd walk on this like super thin ice to go get their golf balls and sell it to them so I could make a little extra cash, and I totally fell through. So I was like, Mom, we're sleeping on this ice while we're ice fishing. Like, I have fallen through.
Wow. You've always been entrepreneurial. I like that. So for like $1 for a golf ball, you're putting your life at risk. That seems like a fair trade.
It was like 25 cents. 25 cents to go to the gas station. I spent it on my candy.
Wow.
So some things never change. Entrepreneur for candy. Seems fitting.
Yeah. For those of you guys that don't know Kiera, although she has a perfect grill, she is addicted to sugar. She's a sugaraholic. So the fastest way to her heart is sugared cereal or cake pops. She has like a fourth grader's diet, like for real. Do you eat like chicken nuggets too? Like,
I'm not crazy about those.
Okay.
So no.
All right.
I mean, if it's at Wendy's though, absolutely yes.
There you go.
There we go. Apparently so.
Okay.
But today, everyone, Mark and I wanted to talk about the vision and direction of the Dental 18 podcast.
And that's it. We're just going to talk about ice fishing and cake pops. That's it, guys. That's the vision. I hope you guys enjoy it.
That is the vision. We want to make sure life is thrilling and sweet all at the same time.
Oh, wow,
ice fishing and cake pops. Segued.
I like it.
But really, the whole point of the Dental 18 podcast, Mark and I were talking, and as we've been coaching together, Mark and I have worked together for, congratulations, it's been 2 years this month that we have worked together.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Seriously. But we worked together for 2 years, and in that time, Mark and I would say, I'll speak from my perspective and then get yours. But in that time, it's been really interesting for me coming from a dental team's perspective and a business owner's perspective, and then to work with Mark, who has been a dentist and has been a multiple business owner, and to bring our two perspectives. I think at the beginning, it was maybe a little bit of oil and water because we had such different perspectives, even though we had underlying values that were the same. And then to mold and to morph within this 2-year period of really aligning our visions, aligning our perspectives, and making both of us a better version of ourselves in the process.
Totally. And, it's an interesting point that you make, Kiera, that when I started my consultancy or my coaching group, back in early 2012, I knew at some point I was going to reach capacity and I was going to need to surround myself with people that could help coach and other coaches because, we started with 9 clients and then all of a sudden we ballooned up to over 100 and now we're approaching 200 clients. There's no way that a single person can do that. Now we have what? We have 7 coaches and 4 traveling implementers like you. So we've ballooned up, but in the beginning, I hired only dentists to be my coaches. So it's a very interesting point. We had a very, I guess, singular view of how to manage, of how to I guess, run a dental office, and that was from the CEO's perspective. Because I had only ever been the owner of a dental practice, an associate first, but then an owner. So it's always been from kind of the CEO/doctor's perspective. And when you and I got together, it was very enlightening, the viewpoint and the perspective that you brought to practice management. And I found it very refreshing, but you're right. In the beginning, it was a little bit of butting heads, like, no, I think this and I think that. And it came to like a lot of I don't know. We had to reach some common ground, and I had to see things from the team's perspective, and that's when things started to change. It's like, I have to thank you for really bringing out that perspective and that viewpoint for me.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that because from my side, I've never been a dentist. I've only been a team member, and yes, I think I have a little bit of a different perspective by being a dental practice owner. But at the same time, like, you have given me so many ideas and insights of like, oh, I get it. Like, you just aren't caring about this because you want to make money, but this is run as a business. But as a team member for a long time, I never grasped that perspective. And so that was the idea Mark and I had is, Mark and I talk about these things regularly. We're talking about how to make practices better from a dentist perspective, and then the team's perspective, and then the team's perspective, and then the dentist perspective. And as Mark and I have been growing and evolving our companies and our relationship together, we realized, well, if Kiera and Mark, who I think are, we try to do a lot of good in the world, change a lot of dental practices. And if Kiera and Mark can come together and see how to be better versions of themselves from these two different perspectives, well, why don't we start sharing that knowledge, the things that we learn from practices, different dentists, different team members, and create a podcast where these perspectives come and align. Because as I personally have watched a lot of the podcasts, I've been in the world. Thank you, Mark, for bringing me into this world full steam. But as I watched it, I literally listened to Mark's silky smooth voice regularly. But as I watched this, I realized we so often just coach to one side or the other. We coach to just dentists or we coach to just team members. And then it's like dentists get these great ideas off these podcasts as they're driving to work, come and dump it in the team member's lap. And the team members are like, okay, another project. Or teams are learning all this great CE through training videos. And they're like, hey, doctor, I had this great idea. And the doctor's like, okay, whatever. I've got like 100 other ideas going on. Why not, instead of having the back and forth two-sided perspective where we're each learning independently, why not bring them together? And that's why we call it the Dental A-Team podcast, where dentists and team members combine and unite to make the most efficient, effective, and simple practices across the nation across the globe.
That was pretty impressive. Like that list that you just rattled off as you're driving in New Jersey. I love the point, though, that you're making. I really do. I value your perspective so much because, gosh, it is the team that really drive the engine of the practice. And I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that. And it wasn't always that perspective that I held. Without the team, because I've had 100% turnover in practices before. Without the team, there is nothing. There is nothing. You can have the most talented, most educated, and best clinicians in the world. Without like solid support, the practice will fail. Absolutely will fail 100% of the time. So yeah, that perspective is so important. And my vision, and I hope you share it, Kiera, is that the doctors and the team, I guess, start to have a different depth of appreciation for one another, but also start speaking the same language. You
Absolutely.
You alluded to this point where, at one point when you were a team member, you're like, you just want to do that, and you're only pushing this initiative because you want to make more money, doctor. But now you understand, since I brought you into this world, the true, I guess, the true reality of business ownership and the risks that the doctor is actually taking, the amount of money that actually needs to be generated just to break even every single month. And, those initiatives to push production, and those initiatives to get production collection percentage as close to 100% as possible, and to increase adjunct services and same day treatment. All of that stuff is to first break even, to make sure that the doctor covers the loan for the practice, the loan for the building, student loans, their own personal expenses, because just like you and I, everybody needs to be able to live outside of the practice. So now that you kind of see that side of things, I'm really glad that you can be the voice to the team members and say, doctors aren't just greedy, and their desire to push production and growth comes down to basic survival of the business first, which supports everybody that works in the practice, and then profit second. Yeah, well, first, obviously, is great patient care, and then survival of the business, and then, providing a lifestyle for the dentist, a distant third.
For certain. But also, like, from a team member's perspective, like, you tell me you want 98% collections, and maybe some people are better than me and they can just accept that, okay, fine, that's what the doctor says, that's what it is. But for me, it became so much easier for me to get on board when I actually understood, like, oh, payroll should be at 30% because across the nation, across the world, like, that's industry standards. Like, oh, I get it. But like, what does 30% actually mean? And when I could actually educate myself and learn more, I felt like I became a greater asset to my doctor. And that's what I'm saying, like the oil and water perspectives from the beginning, where we're both coming from two different perspectives, but then you blend the worlds, you have an understanding that's mutual between the two of you. Doctor changes perspective, team changes perspective. And the beauty is, we aren't here on this podcast to make anybody feel one way or another. The whole goal of this podcast is to bring differing ideas, different perspectives. I envision this podcast being something where, like, pop it in, play it at a team meeting, and like assess some of these ideas and see how you can improve your practice from both worlds, learning the same information together. Or it's like, sometimes we'll have office manager help of how do you deal with hard conversations with your doctor, and doctors, like, how do you have those hard conversations with your office manager, or how do you resolve conflict, or how do you get team morale to be better, or gosh, I just need a system because I'm drowning because I don't know how to delegate. All those different topics will be topics that we constantly are popping up. We obviously want you to input, send in questions that you want us to address on the podcast. Because that's how I see it, as if we can bring from a dentist world and a team member's world, bringing those together, I truly believe, since Mark and I have been having this mindset together, I personally have become a better team member, I've become a better leader, and I've become more understanding, empathetic. But beyond that, my life has been simpler and more efficient because I finally, instead of like going against the grain or doing things harder, I've learned best practices that I can now share with other people that have truly made life so simple and easy, allowing me to do less but create more in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, I love that. And there's another point, and that is, in the world of dental coaches and dental consultants, there are a number of different people that have filled a number of different roles that put themselves out there as consultants and coaches and experts. And some of those people are like you, ex-office managers, Kiera, chairside assistants, many practice owners like you've been. And then there are people that are hygienists that are consultants and coaches. And there are people that are dentists that are consultants and coaches. And there are people that have like MBAs and even law degrees that are consultants and coaches in this dental industry. But it is very, very rare when you get people that actually team up from two opposing perspectives, the team and the doctor perspective. A doctor in me that focuses not just on clinical stuff, but really, really dives deep into MBA level, how to run a business numbers. And then when I align with somebody like Kiera that is master at the soft skills and case presentation and handoffs and all the things that really deeply concern the team members and their performance every single day, you put two of those people together with those two different perspectives and those two backgrounds and those two worlds, and you're bound to have something that's truly unique. And that's what we're going for.
That is absolutely right, Mark. Thank you for that. And I agree. And on top of that, I think it's awesome because Mark and I are also coming from a perspective of we coach hundreds of clients across the nation. Both of us coach them. So Mark from a dentist perspective, Kiera from a team's perspective, and we blend our two worlds and we've coached. So we have case study after case study after case study of things that we see that we actually know works. Because one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone comes in, claims to be an expert, but they've never lived a day in the life of in my shoes, which is why I don't speak to dentists. I can't tell you what it feels like to not be able to find that NV2. I have no clue what that means. I don't know what it's like to have 4 exams stacked up on me, plus I've got to hit production goals, plus I've got to go see my family. I personally cannot speak to that, but Mark can. But Mark can't speak to a team member who doesn't know how to talk to their doctor, and their doctor's just throwing these ideas at them, and it's like, you don't get it. I have 1,000 other things I'm trying to do. You've never lived in that world. And so for Mark and I to come to this audience, to have that perspective, we truly believe that this will be dynamic. It'll be fun. It'll be entertaining. But more than anything, these are people who have walked the walk, talked the talk. We believe that to be a fantastic coach, to be somebody that can offer you advice, give you ideas. We're also not the best. Like, we don't know what we're doing half the time. And we want your input because we believe that when you bring best people, best practices that truly want to impact the world of dentistry, impact the world they live in, and impact themselves, this is the best platform that we could possibly do it on.
I love it. And I often say, guys, I don't want anybody out there to get the impression that I think I'm special or I'm smarter. That is actually the opposite. And the only thing that I think about, I can only speak for myself here, the only thing that I think that separates me from other people is that I have made more mistakes and I've made more bad decisions than anybody else out there that I've met. So I've just failed more and I failed forward. But what is unique about me is that when I fail or I make a bad decision or something goes south and goes awry, I have the ability to step back, assess the situation, see what I did wrong, and correct it next time. So very rarely do I make the same mistakes more than once. But, I always think that it's my mission to put out there, hey guys, I screwed this up. Don't do this. Do it this way maybe, because this is what I've found works better than doing it this way. Learn from my mistakes and save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars and years in frustration. That is what I'm expert at. I'm expert at failing.
I love it. I'm the same way. The amount of different things that we've come from I have definitely implemented, suggested, done things so poorly. I've fired wrong. I've hired wrong. I've presented treatment wrong. Like, you name it. I don't even know what I was doing. I almost got sued one time because we had no clue what we were doing at the dental office. And so it's those types of things. But at the same time, coming with the perspective, with the dedication. Mark and I have a very similar journey, a life legacy that we're planning, that we're working to create. And that is to create a place that positively impacts the world of dentistry and makes people better versions of themselves through our common denominator of dentistry. So that's the vision. That's the mission. That's what the Dental A Team's about. We'll be producing content every single week. So make sure you join in, pop in, listen, take those ideas back, bring the dentists, bring the teams. The Dental A Team is here to make you truly part of the best team possible.
Wow, Kiera, that was a good episode. I really appreciate your time. I want you to focus on the road, especially if there's ice on the road. But yeah, you guys, the informal nature of this is how it's going to roll. Kiera and I have really, really tight schedules. Sometimes it'll be at midnight for us when she's waiting in an airport terminal, and you'll be able to hear the airport noises overhead. Sometimes we'll both be driving just like this. Sometimes we'll be in a crowded dental conference at a booth trying to get a little bit of quiet time together where you'll hear the crowd in the background. But it'll be informal. We typically, 99% of the time, we're not going to be in my podcast studio. So it's just going to be this. It's going to be us sharing our best stuff with you guys for absolutely free, no obligation. We don't want you to do anything other than utilize the tips that we put out there to make you, yourself, and your practice a better place to work.
Absolutely. Mark and I are real life people. This is us, real life. All of us have real life. We don't want to paint ourselves as two perfect people that have all the time in the world. We want us to be real, raw, and vulnerable. So that way you can paint yourself into the stories that we share, the examples that we give to make your life even easier. So Mark, thanks so much. It's always fun to start my mornings with you. Be safe out there as well. And I will talk to you next time on the Dental A-Team podcast.
Thank you, Kiera. Take care, guys.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A-Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.